Hey, and welcome to Radio Cell with me, Cell. I want to talk about loneliness today. And I want to talk about this because, firstly, it's something that I've experienced throughout my life and I still experience now. And also because I feel like there's such a big stigma around it, and it's usually something that's associated with kind of older people, and we don't hear about it, or I don't hear about it that much, being kind of spoken about as something that young people experience. And I feel like because of that, there's a lot of shame around it, and I've definitely experienced that shame myself. Um, so I wanted to share my experience a little bit and also share a extract from a book that I found really useful when thinking about loneliness and kind of like changing my relationship to it. Um, so yeah, I think I'll begin with sharing a bit about my experience with loneliness, and then go on to that bit. Um, And if you're watching this and you feel lonely, then I just want to say, hey, and I'm sending you so much love. And if any of it feels a bit like too much, you can always obviously stop the video. But just know that I I know how it feels, and I've been there, and I'm here for you. Yeah, so I think my experience of loneliness does, now I know, come from being autistic. And this is obviously not, I was late diagnosed, so I didn't know this for a long time, and didn't really understand why I felt different to other people and why I needed extra support, or more support than like I saw that people around me needed. And also didn't understand why simple things were so challenging for me. Um, and I think a lot of this not knowing led to me feeling quite lonely because I had a different way of relating to the world and to people. And even though it's a unique and amazing different, it was still different, and I didn't really understand why, and kind of saw it as a bad thing, I suppose. Um, and yeah, I guess I've my loneliness has manifested in how I feel about friendships, and often feeling left out when I was a child, at school, not feeling like the cool kid. I mean, I was cool. What I thought was cool back then is now just not the same. Cool is just you being you, people being themselves and being kind. That's what I define as cool. But obviously, as a kid, the cool girl is like the person that has the newest whatever and like sets the trends and is the popular one. And that was never me. And I'm not saying that as like a victim. I'm just like, reality was is that was never me, because I'm so weird and like not the kind of person that would be um setting the trends, or maybe setting my very own unique trends that no one followed. But yeah, so I think um, not feeling like the popular girl and often feeling left out, and on top of this, kind of the neurodiversity, which tends to affect one's ability to make friends, kind of all resulted in me feeling like I didn't really have any friends, and like I never really made like um, a proper like group of friends. I did have childhood, like one-on-one childhood best friend, a childhood best friend, and kind of I had a few friends that were like that. But as I've moved through life, these friendships have always ended, or I don't know, things have always shifted and moved, and I think as I've come into my adult life, I notice that the loneliness for me persists within this zone of friendship. And even though I now have some solid points of contact and people that I know love me and that support me, it's still, I still think that I spend a lot of time on my own and I don't socialize maybe as much. And I guess autism is a big part of this, because I find it overwhelming, and I don't have capacity to do things in the same way that other people do. And in group settings, I can find that quite difficult. And like with friends that you've been friends with for a while, they might not, and that have known you before, or they knew me before my diagnosis, but like friends, like they might not be able to understand that. So it just seems like you're being weird. So yeah, that's a little bit about my experience of loneliness, just putting it out there, want it to be destigmatized. And yeah, I think as I'm talking about it, it seems like a lot of it comes from the fact that I am autistic, but that doesn't mean that it's not real or legitimate if you're someone that experienced loneliness and you're not neurodiverse. Like, I think the feeling of not having friends or not really having people around us that we can connect with is a very common feeling, more than we know, and it doesn't have to be as a result of anything, but that for me is probably one of the main reasons why I struggle to find and sustain these connections, even though I'm really good at connecting with people on the surface. It's not something that stays deep down. So yeah, that's a bit about my experience with it. And I want to share a little passage from a book which has kind of helped me shift my perspective to loneliness, and given me like a tool to be able to think about. It's in the other room, so I'm just going to go and get it. Okay, so the passage is from a book called Lighthouse, written by Michael James, which I found in a charity shop, and yeah, I love it. I read this part a few years ago and it really stuck with me ever since. So the fact that you feel this longing, and for me that longing is loneliness, means that this quality is deep within you and unrealized, like buried treasure. And the pain you feel is actually this quality within yourself that you are ignoring, calling out to you. That's what the pain is. The fact that you have the pain means that this quality is within you, undiscovered, or otherwise you couldn't feel this pain. That's all that the feeling in the pit of your stomach means. You are denying a very real part of yourself that you are attempting to get from something outside of yourself. But it's not outside of yourself, it's an unrealized part of you. Often, to soothe the pain, we are led to seek outside ourselves even more, continuing to ignore the inequality which is trying to get our attention. And the painful feeling gets stronger as we move away from our real self, falling into more and more powerlessness. And then we crave more outside of ourselves still, and this is what's known as an addiction. So this painful feeling is very good news, even though it may not feel that way in the moment. The longing means that the quality we are looking to get from outside of ourselves is actually within us, or we couldn't long. The more we chase out there, the further we depart from ourselves. The worse we feel, the more we want to chase, and it's a vicious cycle. Most of us have spent a lot of our lives looking for fragments of ourselves in other people, places, or things. When you own that quality in yourself, your pain will stop. Isn't that great news? So firstly, you want to identify the quality you are longing for, and therefore the quality you need to recognize within yourself. So just want to frame that with, obviously, it's important to feel the feelings and feel the grief and the sadness and the loneliness as it is, and kind of acknowledge that, and not not gaslight yourself out of it by just being like positive and happy. And it's important to reach out to friends when you do feel lonely, and if it doesn't feel like there's a support network, which I've definitely had in the past, just like reaching out to someone that feels accessible, or reaching out to a professional. I have done that, and also family, if you have that, if you have relationships with your family. I know some people don't. So yeah, those things are all important firstly before this passage. But something that I really like about this passage is that it reminds me that whilst I still feel that deep ache in my stomach when I feel loneliness, it reminds me that yearning and that longing is basically an alarm. It's a feeling, it's a sensation within myself that is asking for me to witness it. And I think often when I feel that feeling, I tend to run. It's the same with other sensations like that I have if I feel ill, or like whatever it is, I tend to want to run from the sensation. But this reminds me that that sensation is asking to be listened to and looked at and heard. And it also reminds me that in kind of looking for this longing outside and in other people, usually for me, I kind of look for other people to make me feel better. My throat. I'm actually getting further and further away from my real self, and my real self is sad then, because I'm leaving my real self behind. And it's kind of, that makes me like shift my perspective, and then I'm like, oh, well, maybe this feeling of loneliness isn't actually that I don't have friends, or that I don't have people around me that care about me. Maybe this feeling is actually a need for me to look inwards and to connect to myself. And maybe there's something that I need to give myself or tell myself. And I sometimes get frustrated with this, because I think I've done so much work. I've said so many nice things to myself and meant it. And I've loved myself. I've started to love myself a lot. And sometimes it's frustrating, because I'm like, I just wish that I could have a friend that would say these things, and that I don't need to ask for that. And because I've done so much of saying that to myself. But in the trusting mindset, I trust that if this feeling is still coming up, then there's still something that I haven't looked at and haven't listened to. And the more that I kind of ask for it in other people, the more if I imagine this feeling and sensation as like a little version of myself, it's like I'm kind of abandoning her, which is really sad. And it makes sense that the loneliness feels sad, because it's part of my body that feels like, and it's part of me that feels like she's not loved because I'm not loving her. Which is like, mic drop. Damn. So yeah, but I think that's a really helpful passage. And the next bit, it says, the question is, what do you want that you think this person or situation will give you? for example, you really like someone who isn't responding to you the way you'd like. It could be a friend or a family member or a partner. Situation I want to happen. Person calls me and shows me they care. How would it feel if this situation happened? And then you go through like what it would feel, and then so yeah, you write down what you would want to feel as a result of this person giving you what you want or what you think you want or need. And then, yeah, it says doing this exercise will wake you up to your power and make you realize you're looking outside for equality inside. In this example, you will realize that you do not actually want the reassuring call at all. What you want is the feeling that you think the call will give you. By doing this exercise, you'll begin to realize this quality within yourself, and you will see how this situation or person's lack of providing a need was showing you where you could acknowledge yourself more. So again, it's important to not take this as not asking other people for support. We still have needs that need to be that are met, needs that are to be met by other people, but then we also have these needs that we need to meet, and if we're trying to get other people to meet them, then it's like not going to go well, which is what I've learned. So yeah, that is a bit of rambling around loneliness, my experience of it, and then a little passage. But I hope that in sharing this, maybe one person feels less alone, and that maybe that feels encouraging and like gives a bit of hope. If I'm really honest, I was feeling lonely this afternoon, and even though I spoke to friends on the phone, I still had that feeling, and it's kind of a narrative that I create in my head, that is kind of can't be changed by anyone speaking to me. So yeah, I feel like this second bit is actually really, really powerful because it breaks down those narratives and helps us to realize that we can actually give ourselves those things that we think that we need first from other people. But anyways, gonna end it there. Hope some of that finds you where you are. And yeah, sending so much love, and I'll see you on the next video. Tiny bit that I want to add on to the end of that, but is just that also it's taken me a long time to get to this point, and I'm still learning, but having the trust that the people that love me and that are for me will come into and stay into my life is really important, and that's something that I've been trying to cultivate and work around, but also trusting that I am enough as me and that I can give myself love, and that I'm not whilst it's good to have dependence on people for needs and love, it's also important to feel like we can meet our own needs emotionally first, and this is something again that I'm working on, and also a trust that I will be capable of creating these friendships and these relationships, even if they're not present now, and even if they are present now, that I will be capable of creating healthier or more connected or more aligned relationships. And it's just like opening that mindset, so that, because sometimes I'm like this and I'm like, I don't have any friends, or I feel this, and I'm so stuck in that way that obviously all my thoughts are only going to go, like if you have a river and then you kind of put walls in, it's gonna flow through the main bit, if that makes sense. So opening up, and like breath just came out because that feels like relief. Opening up that mindset so that we're not just looking at this thing on, we can also see what else is on the horizon, and become susceptible to more positive experiences, but also to more feelings and realizations. And it doesn't all have to be positive. It can be, I mean, difficult feelings can be positive, but you know what I mean. Anyway, sending so much love, and yeah, I want to kind of note that if loneliness does ever feel something that's overwhelming, too overwhelming, then please reach out to a professional, because that's really important. Yeah, see you on the next one.